As the conflict in the Middle East escalates following the U.S. and Israel's launch of a major combat operation against Iran, Defense Department employees say the demands of a new war are adding strain to an already stretched workforce. Federal News Network's Anastasia Obis joins me with more details. Anastasia, thanks for being here.
Hi, Terry.
You got this kind of insight through a poll that you conducted. Tell us about it. What kinds of questions? Who answered?
As you mentioned, of course, the Defense Department has been undergoing major changes since the beginning of the second Trump administration, including organizational restructuring, reduction in its civilian workforce. So it has faced multiple challenges since then, a major one being workforce shortages. But these changes have also impacted morale and trust in leadership. So given all these various challenges and constraints, we wanted to conduct this kind of very quick pulse check to get a better understanding of what the workforce is going through, and how what the administration calls military operations in Iran are impacting day to day for DoD employees. So we asked questions like, how would you rate your organization's ability to accomplish its mission right now? How would you rate your staffing levels to meet current mission demands? How often maybe you've been performing duties outside of your primary role due to workforce shortages? We also asked about operational tempo, whether it's increased or it stayed the same. And we also asked questions about confidence in their leadership, about challenges that have emerged over the past month and how the operations are impacting the day-to-day. We had about 150 people take the pulse poll. It's a small sample size, but I think it's a good glimpse into what the workforce is currently dealing with.
As you looked at the responses, what are your big takeaways?
It's definitely that the Defense Department's workforce was already under strain, and this new conflict is making it much worse. Organizations are already understaffed, but operational tempo rises pretty quickly. So one DoD said, and I quote, with the convergence of organizational changes, staff reductions, and a war in a resource-constrained environment, it feels almost impossible to sustain the mission. I also had another employee who said that they used to have 4 times the number of people. The workload keeps increasing with the calls for increased production that we've been talking about and the current war. Another employee that I wanted to highlight at the Defense Contract Management Agency, and that agency makes sure that weapons that are delivered to warfighters meet all the performance requirements. That person said that budget cuts and workforce reductions are undermining the organization's missions, and also they said that it's only getting worse. So we had more than 50% of respondents say that they've been performing duties outside of their primary role due to those workforce shortages. And we also had more than 50% of respondents say that they have insufficient staffing levels to support the mission of their organization.
Anastasia, those would have probably been true even without the increased op tempo from the operations in Iran. So how does the ongoing operation affect the op tempo for the civilian part of DoD?
We had about 40% of respondents say that the operational tempo is a lot higher than it was a month ago. About 28% of respondents said that it's slightly higher than it was a month ago. And going back to that DCMA employee who said, and I quote, "We're asked to do more, but we cannot, and something will eventually fail and fail badly."
Wow, that can cause you to take a deep breath when you hear responses like that. Across all of the responses, then, what inferences do you draw about morale inside the Pentagon right now?
We conducted a survey post the shutdown last year, and federal workers said that morale and trust in leadership was at an all-time low when we conducted that survey, and that was in 2025. Now, in the past month, DoD employees said that the conditions have kind of only worsened, with most respondents reporting further decline in morale. We had about 57% of people saying that morale is much lower than it was last month. One employee said that leadership has not shown leadership, and I quote, "The lack of morale will bite them. If and when we need to go to a wartime pace, the workforce will not elevate the level of effort." Another employee said that so far they've only seen morale being affected, but if the war drags on, then it would most likely increase the operational tempo and the workload. Plus, for many DoD employees, the immediate impact of current operations being reflected in longer hours, they're covering someone else's responsibilities, they're being pulled away from their duties to cover for someone else. So all of that is just snowballing.
Would you say that the responses you got indicate that this emotion or this take on morale and mission is widely distributed across the Pentagon, or really only in certain areas?
Yeah, again, it's a small sample size, but when I asked how it's impacting the day-to-day, a number of respondents did say that they're not experiencing any significant disruptions. Their day-to-day hasn't changed, or at least for now. Someone said, we are not experiencing any impact right now until battle damage need repair. Someone also said that there is kind of no direct mention of the war, and it's kind of being ignored, but it's hard to go on knowing what's happening. But many respondents did highlight all of the challenges that we've been talking about, which is high operational tempo, prioritizing other requirements to meet emerging needs, more work for less people, and redirecting of funding from their daily operations to support the military operations in Iran.
Definitely something we need to keep our eye on then as the operation continues.
Absolutely.
That's Federal News Network's Anastasia Obis. You can find her full story at federalnewsnetwork.com.